Coming up, the play-in games do not disappoint. This is Locked On Game to Game, NBA.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NBA. Local experts join us to go over the biggest stories on the hardwood and recap the action for you from last night in the NBA. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Atlanta definitely showed up in their play-in game in South Beach, and they owned the glass en route to a win in their matchup against the Heat. Locked On Hawks details that win and looks ahead to an opening round series with the Celtics.
Hello, friends. My name is Brad Rowland, and the Atlanta Hawks are moving on to the NBA playoffs officially as the 7th seed as they get a victory on the road, 116-105 against the Miami Heat, the first time the 7th seed has ever lost in the play-in, and down go the Heat as a result. The Hawks did not shoot that well in this game, which is kind of a surprise. All you knew is that the Hawks won this game going away. You would have assumed that they shot much better than the 10 of 41 from three they did in this game. The Hawks dominated on the margin in this one. Offensive rebounding, a season high, 22 offensive rebounds in this game, 26 second chance points. The Hawks grabbed almost 40% of their missed shots in this game and just really out-physicaled, outsized, all of that, outworked really the Miami Heat in this game. Not the expected result, especially through that lens, but the Hawks had nice balance in their scoring department, 7 guys in double figures, and they just kind of out-talented the Heat as well in this spot. With this win, they play the Boston Celtics in the best-of-7 series. It begins on Saturday, but for now, the Hawks can sort of take solace in a nice victory, getting above 500 again after a 41-41 regular season, and a really nice night to be an Atlanta Hawk at this point in time. We'll get into all this game and more coming up on Locked On Hawks podcast.
Miami unable to get it done last night, so it will be win or go home on Friday for them. Locked On Heat goes over the issues against Atlanta.
The Heat have played with fire all season, and when it comes to their confounding style of play, but they were burned badly in their play-in game, a 116-105 loss to the Hawks. I'm David Mill, the host of Locked On Heat. There was a lot of talk before the game about how Miami had Trae Young's number and that playoff Jimmy Butler would step up when it mattered most. But both things were disproven as Young went off for 25 points to go along with 7 assists and an unbelievable 8 rebounds, while Butler looked as bad as he has all season, just shooting 6 of 19 from the field and missing several attempts around the rim, if not for a miraculous Kyle Lowry game, the same Lowry that many Heat fans had soured on all season after dealing with a leg injury for most of the year. The Heat would have lost by much more. Lowry had 33 points and often looked like the only Miami player who actually cared about the outcome of the game, leading multiple comebacks throughout the night and even cutting the lead to 6 midway through the fourth quarter. Miami just didn't get any offensive support from anyone else. Tyler Hero had 26 points of the night, was mostly fine, but Bam Adebayo was outplayed and outsized, held to just 12 points, while the Hawks controlled the rebounding edge mightily, leading the category by 24 boards. There was a sense that Miami had been waiting for the postseason to finally give a complete effort, but now that their season boils down to an upcoming matchup versus the Bulls or Raptors, who knows what could happen next? Both teams have dominated Miami during the regular season, going a combined 1 of 6 versus the Heat. For a full recap of tonight's game, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Heat.
Over in the West, LeBron James and the Lakers willing themselves to victory in overtime of their play-in matchup against Minnesota. Locked On Wolves goes over the blown lead and the future for the Wolves.
A double-digit lead turns into an overtime loss as the Timberwolves lose the 7-8 play-in game to the Lakers. They'll play on Friday for a chance for the 8th seed in the Western Conference. This is Ben Beacon, the host of the Locked On Wolves podcast. And Minnesota led at halftime by 11. They led by as many as 15 behind a huge first half from Karl-Anthony Towns. He finished the game with 24, 11, and 5, but attempted only 2 shots in the fourth quarter and overtime combined. He was in foul trouble in the second half. That limited him a little and impacted the way he was able to play on both ends of the floor. But ultimately, the Lakers did a great job at taking shots away from Towns late in the game. The Wolves also went for about a 6-minute stretch in the fourth without scoring at all offensively. Anthony Edwards finished with 9 points on 17 shots. Fell hard on his shoulder in the first half and had tape on it in the second half. Clearly, that was bothering him. Mike Conley hit 3 free throws with 0.1 seconds on the clock to send it to overtime, but the Wolves fell short at the end of the day. Subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
That's a wrap for this edition of Locked On Game to Game NBA. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. With the playoffs here, make sure you are subscribed to Locked On NBA and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.